Hello, everybody. Welcome to our special spotlight evening tonight. Thank you for coming. And a special welcome to Peter Killingley from Care as well. It's great to have you here. It was a real blessing to be under his ministry this morning, wasn't it? So we're very glad to welcome him back this evening. Tonight we are thinking about parenting children in a digital age. Why can't I say that word? It's a difficult word. But that's what we're thinking about. Anyway, so different to normal services, but it's not going to be any singing or anything like that. What we'll do is Peter will present some thoughts and biblical thoughts to us, and that will go on for however long it goes on for. And then we'll have a break, and I believe there's going to be some interactive sort of elements to it tonight as well. But we'll have a break about just over halfway through. There's some pieces of paper here, so if you've got questions on and you want to come and write some questions on, that's fine. There's some pens here as well. And then hopefully we'll have a Q&A at the end. Before I hand over to Peter, I'm going to pray, and then we'll get cracking. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time together. We thank you that your word speaks into all sorts of things. And although digital things weren't invented back in the times of the Bible, yet the principles still speak into how we are to approach these things, how we are to parent. And Father, we acknowledge who doesn't struggle in these things. So Lord, we look to you for wisdom. We look to you for help. Lord, may tonight be a blessing to us so that we can be a blessing to our children. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you all for coming out again this evening. It is really good to see you all. I love the way they get rid of so many chairs and force you into this small block in the middle. It's great. You've come tonight because for one reason or another you want to think about parenting in the digital world. In some ways it's nothing new. Parenting is and has always been hard. Teenagers find ways to push boundaries. That's been the story forever, but also in other ways, particularly in the digital age. It's an age of smartphones and selfies and nudes and social media and AI, and today's teenagers do face challenges that most of us didn't have when we were growing up. And so the goal tonight is to explore those challenges. If you're a parent here, it's to help you navigate the digital age. Maybe you want to be a parent one day, it's to help you get ready for that. Or maybe you have been a parent and you're past that stage in life. Well, I'm just really encouraged that you're here because you can help support and love your brothers and sisters in Christ who are going through this at the moment. I should tell you a little bit about myself and my family. I don't usually spend quite as much time on this, but it's just because I'm talking about parenting. It's probably a good idea to set some context. So I'm married to Sophie. She is a freelance artist, writer, and illustrator. And for those of you who are here this morning, I told you where she is. She's no longer in China. I got a message about 6 minutes ago from the in-flight Wi-Fi to tell me they are currently over Mongolia. So there we are. Sophie and I have been married for 20 years. We had our 20th anniversary about a week ago, for which the celebration for 20 years is China. And we've got 2 children. So Phoebe is 18 years old. She has just finished her A-levels. Solomon, Sol, is 14, I think 15 in 2 weeks today. He's at our local secondary school in Woking. And so this is a live issue for us. We are having regular conversations with our kids about all of this stuff, particularly Solomon. He spent most of the summer in a grump because we were not giving him everything he wanted online, and because he had found a way to get round some of the controls we imposed. And so very much we don't have every answer. If you were to ask them, has your dad got everything right in parenting, they would of course say no. I'm aware of that. There are things I'd do differently if I could go back and do it again. There are things I handled wrongly. There are things they think I handled wrongly that I think I handled rightly, because they don't always agree with me. But I think my point is I'm coming from a place of personal experience with these issues. What I'll do is I'll briefly talk about care, and then we'll have three main sections to tonight. Clicker not on, is that correct? There we go. There's the vague outline. It's intro to care, then what challenges do young people face, what challenges do parents face, and then what can you do? And I am conscious, again, that there will be that range of different situations represented here this evening. And some of you're right in the middle of it, but perhaps for others, your children have grown up a little bit, or they're late teens, and you feel like you didn't get everything right with this. And if that is you, I do want you to go away with a little bit of hope, because there's going to be all sorts of things I say tonight, which you go, oh, I didn't do that, I didn't do that, oh, we definitely didn't do that. But remember, we believe in a God of grace, a God of goodness. It's not fatalism. It's not where I didn't do enough in my parenting on this area, and so a certain outcome is inevitable for my child. That's not the Christian message. So be hopeful, whatever situation you have tonight. So just briefly about care. I know many of you will know this already, so I'll focus on one specific area I haven't covered much on before. So CARE is Christian Action, Research and Education. We're a Christian charity looking to bring a biblical perspective into politics. And I was just saying to Matt in the back, we are so thankful for our partnership with North Bradley Baptist Church. It's third year in a row that I visited, and you give a monthly gift to help us and support us in our work. And for us, that's invaluable, because it is through the support, financial and prayerful, and encouragement of local churches that's how we're able to do what we do. So thank you for your partnership with us. And I want to talk, as we talk about care, about the Online Safety Act. Specifically, I want to talk about age verification laws. So years gone by, you would, if you wanted to go onto an adult website, you would tick a box saying, I am over 18, and then you would be in. But now someone must verify their age. They need to prove their age. This has been the case since the 25th of July this year. And this is something that at CARE we've been campaigning for decades. We've always argued for online, offline parity. So if certain types of material are illegal offline, they should be illegal online. And if you need to prove your age offline, let's say if you were to go into a shop and buy a magazine, then you should need to prove your age online as well. It should be the same for each. And this is something we've been campaigning on for years and years. And when we were making this argument 10 years ago, people would just give us funny looks and think we were a bit mad. But you plug away and you press on, and the conversation shifted, and the stats we'll come on to in a minute showed how many young people are accessing harmful things online and the way it was shaping them, and people started to realize maybe online being for a free-for-all isn't such a good idea, and eventually, after lots of work, the law was changed. And the new law, it's not perfect. It won't stop every determined teenager, but it is a step in the right direction. An executive at the Christian Institute said recently that age verification on pornographic websites would not have happened if it wasn't for CARE. So that's a big victory for us. You can give us a clap. Yeah, we'll take a clap. I'll pass that clap on to my colleagues who've been working with Parliament. Thank you. The next legislation we're looking to get passed involves depictions of violence in online porn. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But at the end, what I'm going to ask is whether you would consider signing up to CARE, to joining our mailing list. Some of you are on it already. And what happens, we don't bombard you. We give you a weekly email, a Christian update from Parliament. But it really helps our policy team. When they go into meetings with MPs, one of the first things a new MP will ask is, well, how many people are on your mailing list? How many people do you email? How many people are you in touch with? And the reason for that is for them, they're always thinking ahead to the next election, and it's all about numbers, and it's all about votes. And they want to know, okay, we're having this meeting with this new person. How influential is that group? How many people in my constituency are going to be listening to this person? And so the more people who get our weekly emails, the more influence we have in those meetings. So if you would like to, please do consider signing up to follow Care. I'll put that slide on again at the end. That's the Care bit done. I want us to move on now then to start thinking about challenges that young people face. But I'd also love a discussion question. Let's get talking so you're not just listening to me. So I've got two questions there. I want you to think about how the young people you know would answer this question. What's the biggest challenge of the online world? And what's the biggest benefit of the online world? Don't answer for yourself. Don't be like, oh, the biggest benefit is I get to see everything my child does. No. What would the children in your life or who you know say as an answer to that question? So break into groups, anything between 3 and 8 people in each group. Take 3 minutes and see what answers you come up with. That'd be great. There, and I've got Catherine and Richard as ready runners with microphones, so that maybe just get a little bit of feedback from that question. Microphones are really helpful just because I'm partially hard of hearing and that really helps me, and others might be as well. So if you stick your hand up, one of them will come to you and you can answer, give your answer. Yes.
A challenge would be that I haven't got an up-to-date phone.
Okay, yeah, so not having an up-to-date phone, I can see that be infuriating, yes.
Similar one of that, of it's not fast enough.
Oh, okay, or the internet's not fast enough. Yeah, okay. One more challenge, and then we'll go to the benefits.
I think our older kids would say that. Sorry. I think our older kids would say that they would find it a challenge in terms of wasting time. It's hard not to waste time.
They know
I'd
they're
say they would
wasting
definitely
time,
say
and
that,
they hate that they're wasting time, but they can't stop wasting time. Yeah. Shall we go for 3 benefits as well? Yeah, go on.
So being able to be connected to people, that can be a benefit and a challenge. But just that thing of being able to just message your friend rather than having to like cycle to their house and knock on their front door like we used to. Yeah. Just that instant contact.
Yeah, there's downsides to it, but it's really good. Yeah. It's nice. Yeah.
We had the access to information. You don't have to go down the library and look for a book.
Oh, isn't that good?
Which they claim, books can go out of date. And it's like, well, we're trying to argue with them that not everything you see online is up to date either. But
no, but I know not everything. Wikipedia is not perfect, but to be able to do some research on Wikipedia rather than to go to the library and look at the inside, I mean, that's nuts when you think about it, isn't it? One more. So, yes.
I think I know quite a lot of young people with neurodiversity and physical disabilities, and for them, when they game, they can do it and access it in the same way as their peers. It's very equal, and sometimes when you're just chatting with another person, there's less that you have to interpret. It's just text to interpret, so it's sometimes easier for them to make friends and to have things in common with other people.
Yeah, I love that. So both of my children are neurodivergent, and so we really feel like there's they find interaction and relationships a challenge, but being able to do that while gaming or while texting, that can really help them in many ways. So I wanted to include the benefits there because I do not want tonight to be doom and gloom. I mean, we're going to look at all the bad stuff because that's the point of the session, but I want to just put it out there at the beginning. There's so much good online, so much good to being connected, so I don't want us to forget that. But just in terms of challenges, I've got 3 challenges I want to mention. And the first one is this. It's harmful content. And I suppose here I'm particularly thinking of sexual content, of pornography. So here are the stats. 94% of children have seen some form of pornography by the time they're 14. So you've had a youth group of 20 kids, age 14, 19 of them would have seen some pornographic images or videos online. The average age for first viewing is 12, and a quarter encounter it while still at primary school. Now, for some of them, it's because they're on their phone late at night, searching the internet, a bit risque, what can I find? But that's not the most common first point of exposure. Usually it's social media, it's looking for something else, and there it is, sandwiched in between 2 otherwise innocent posts. Or it's a group chat, maybe on WhatsApp, someone sends an image or a video of some form, and there it is. It's on their eyeballs, and that's that. Now, at one level, it's not new. Pornography has been available for decades, but it is different today. It is easier to access now than it was 20, 30 years ago. It used to be that a magazine had to be procured from somewhere, but now anyone with a smartphone can theoretically access this material. But on top of that, the nature of the pornography is different from 20 years ago. Like I said earlier, there are prohibitions on what you can buy or sell in printed format. And those restrictions at the moment don't apply online. So online you will have aggressive content, violent content, underage content, and non-consensual content, all sorts of things like that. And the reality is that 80% of 18-year-olds have seen pornography involving sexual violence. And 47%, that's basically half, say they expect real-life sex to involve violence, whether that's slapping or choking or anything else. Because this is what they're learning from. And it's pretty horrendous when you look at those stats and think about them for too long. So this is an area we're really pleased with the progress we've made here. We're still campaigning, and we want the law to make strangling and choking and depictions of violence illegal in online pornography as well. So that's our next goal. The government initially said they would not support this change because they're not quite sure why. And when that happened, loads of other organizations said, okay, well, we've got so far with online safety, maybe we'll park it for a while. And at CARE, we kept going because we thought, no, this is important. And as a result of that, we managed from the previous government to secure this big governmental review led by someone in the House of Lords that did a 200-page report into the state of pornography in young people in the United Kingdom. And as a result of that report being published, we ended up getting meetings in 10 Downing Street. And we wrote a document that was then used to brief the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. And as a result of that document, Keir Starmer read it, said, I agree. And the government has now said, as a result of that, let's make this happen. They have said that an amendment banning depictions of online of strangulation will be added to a bill that's going through the House of Lords next week. Another win. We are delighted by that. And yeah, we keep fighting. And it shows again the power of politics. You can make change. So pornography is one worry. There is other harmful content out there. Molly Russell was a 14-year-old girl living in London. She took her own life in 2017. And in the 6 months leading up to her death, she saved, shared, or liked over 2,000 posts on Instagram that were self-harm or suicide related. And we don't think a 14-year-old should be able to see those posts online. Or there's other things, that the possible harms of AI. I think there's lots of good things about AI. I've got a whole separate talk on Christian engagement with AI. But there are websites, such as one called Character AI, that they provide chatbots to act as friends to your children. And the danger is that it can be incredibly addictive. It can provide false intimacy that leads to real-life isolation. It's basically a friend who loves and supports you but never tells you anything you don't want to hear. And there's been a couple of particularly horrendous stories about teenagers who have taken their own lives after being encouraged to do so by AI chatbots. Not trying to scare you off the whole internet. I think my point is there is an ever-evolving world out there, and it can be hard to keep up. That's challenge number one, harmful content. Challenge number two is harmful people. Sometimes that's people they don't know in real life. This is grooming online. Two most prominent platforms for that to happen are Snapchat and Instagram. But even gaming sites like Roblox can be used to communicate with children who they don't know. But most cases here, 82% of grooming cases are targeted at young teenage girls. So it might be people they don't know in real life, or it might be people they do know. So there's cyberbullying. Used to be when someone bullied you, that happened at school and then stopped when you got home. Home was the safe place. But now, home can be the worst place if your child has a phone in their bedroom. It's like inviting the bully into your private space. And unlike school, where there's probably a line they won't cross, behind a keyboard there often isn't. And there's also all the peer pressure around sending nudes to one another. 37% of young people have sent a nude or topless picture digitally. Perhaps your kids are very sensible. They'd never do this. They've had the warnings at school. They think it's ridiculous. But at the same time, some will. And for some of those pictures then get shared more widely around the school. I know this all sounds like an online safety assembly that my kids tell me they get far too many of already. Schools cover this kind of stuff. They drill it into the students. Don't send nudes or whatever. But the fact is, some do, and so we're listing it as a challenge that just wasn't there 20 years ago. So we've had harmful content, harmful people. The third big challenge facing young people today is the harmful effects of living in a screen-saturated world. So the way it changes you. So growing up is a time when your brain is still developing. It's being shaped and molded as you interact with the world on a day-by-day basis. That's habit forming, that's character forming. Now, I'm not that old, but when I was a teenager, going online, it was an event. Some of you will remember this. You had to make sure no one else was on the phone, and then use the dial-up modem, and you get the noise, the weird bing bong, and all of that. But you going online, you went online deliberately, and then later you'd come offline. It was a clean break. I got my first phone at 16. No 3G, no 4G. I remember I was delighted when I worked out how to get text messages with the football scores on it. I got a laptop hooked up to broadband at 18. So that's my first always-on internet connection. But you still needed to be at your laptop, at your desk. So you weren't always connected. I got my first social media account at 22. I think my first iPhone at 25. And now with my phone in my pocket, I'm at the stage where I'm always connected. And it's quick and easy to grab the phone and have a look, and to fill every moment of boredom with distraction. And in fact, it's harder not to grab the phone, but it's harder to sit in silence, isn't it? Or focus on the hard work in front of me. Now, I'm fighting that battle in my 40s, but I didn't go through that in my formative brain years. Teenagers today, they're growing up with this always on, always connected, always reachable, notifications pinging at any time of day, and wherever you go, you can't disconnect unless you take that radical choice, and it is radical for many teenagers. You take the radical choice to leave the house without your phone. And so social scientists have been studying this and the impact it has. There's a correlation for teens between using social media and suffering from depression and anxiety. There are people arguing about causation, correlation, but it wouldn't be surprising. It's kind of like eating junk food all day and then being surprised you feel sick. There are studies showing that, particularly for girls, social media can really lower self-esteem and self-worth. The quest for likes becomes really debilitating. It's the harmful effects. They've done studies showing an impact on sleep. I think that's fairly self-explanatory, but also a study on attention fragmentation. So the average phone pings 192 times every day. I'm actually surprised it's so low. So my kids once woke up and told me I had 1,000 messages on one WhatsApp group overnight. But some social scientists, again, they did an experiment and they got students to take a written test. Some students had their phone on the desk next to them during the test. Some had it in their pocket, and some left their phone in a completely different room. And they found, unsurprisingly, that those who had the phone on the desk in front of them, they performed worst at this written test. But even having the phone in their pocket lowered the average results. Even the knowledge that it was there and might have a message, that was distracting. And a lot of schools, as a result of all of that study, they're now becoming phone-free. I'm sure you'll have seen that in the news. And I'm really for that. I was delighted that in June our son's school became a phone-free school, and they have lockable pouches that they put their phone in at the beginning of every school day. So there we go. That's 3 challenges that young people face. I want to say not every young person's an addict. Not every young person views porn. Not every young person loses sleep. Many young people are perfectly able to have healthy interactions online and use their phone at the level they want to. It's not about making a bogeyman out of smartphones or social media. But these devices are designed to be addictive. It's not like there's some horrible drug where you touch it once, oh, that's the end of it all, but they are designed to addict. We'll come to some of it later, but it's about how many hours a day someone uses them. What age are they? What time of day do they use them? What kind of content do they consume it comes down sometimes just to your child's personality. Are they particularly addictive personality? I've got one child who is, I've got one who isn't. And all this is where parents can come in and help, isn't it? But parents, we find it difficult too. No aspect of parenting has ever been easy. So take another break from me. We'll do another brief discussion. And that is, have you tried limiting the amount of time your child spends on screens? How did that go? What made it difficult? Just notice from the last one, I assume it was difficult. If it wasn't, please do share. But again, take a couple of minutes and we'll just share some of the wisdom in the room on your experiences. Back in, and again, it's good to hear you all talking so much. So I know you've all got lots of answers. Anyone want to share anything that you or someone in your group said that you thought, oh, that was particularly helpful, or that went badly, let's share that bad story. Anyone want to share anything from that discussion? Yes, at the back.
We actually don't have internet through a broadband service provider or anything. We just have it on our phones, so the kids can't actually access anything on TV or a pad or whatever without us allowing it first.
Yeah, and that's, can I ask, how old are your kids?
4 and 5, so not teenagers, but they can still see anything and access anything because it is so easy.
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant in many ways, because actually, as they grow older, they're going to push, and you might say, let's release those limits, let's allow this or that or the other. But if you're starting from a fairly solid point there, then you've got yourself into a good position. So that's great. Anyone else?
We find it very difficult because all of their homework is on a screen. So you can't say, well, no, your time's up, because they're trying to get their homework done.
Yeah, I know, that's really frustrating, isn't it? Well, I'll mention at the end a couple of apps that can be used. You can sometimes get quite granular in what you allow. So you can say you're allowed this length of time on WhatsApp or whatever, but this length of time on your homework website or whatever. So you can sometimes play around with that, but it is still quite difficult, isn't it? Yeah, one more there. Is that you, Phil?
We have tried limiting the amount of time, I think is a good answer. I think one of the things that we were just talking about was we're often the problem, actually. So the amount of time that our own relationship, well, I'll say my relationship with my phone is not a good example. So I think that was...
Yeah, we're going to come on to that. You will not be alone in this room. Thank you for saying that, because I think others will think, oh, that's me too. And in fact, we had this conversation with Solomon about a month ago, and actually included us apologizing to him. So we have not set you a good example here. Yeah, and so that is a challenge. Anyone on this side got anything to add?
So I was just saying, we've got an 8-year-old who got a Nintendo Switch for her birthday this year.
Yeah.
But we started, as opposed to when she's had iPads that just go on forever, 2 hours later, that she started with a half-an-hour time limit. But the software shuts off, so we're not the antagonist in that scenario. We're not confronting her. Whereas if I then have to take the time away because of her behaviour, we have much more of a problem, because she's confronting me.
You're the bad guy.
I'm the bad guy at that point, as opposed to, oh, it's gone, well, it's gone.
Yeah, but that's really, and they, after a while, they do get used to, so the software can be a massive help, and we'll talk more about that as well. Here are three challenges I'm going to give that parents have. Number one, kids push back. You know, we know this. It's that everyone else has a phone. I know it says 18 on the App Store, but everyone else is on this app. That's never true. I'm the only one who's not allowed. There's a constant conflict in parenting that wears you down, and I want sometimes to initiate a conversation, again, particularly with Solomon, but I know it's going to make me a bad guy, and sometimes I just don't feel like doing that. Why do they always push back? I never push back on my parents ever, on anything. No, challenge number 5, kids know more than us. They know more than you. The reality is that for a tech-savvy kid, they can get around the new age verification laws that have been passed. It is possible. So again, we can't, it is a useful tool. It will stop many, but we can't just rely on the government solving all problems for us. But even at the simple level, for some people, if you want to put limits on what's able to be accessed or how long can be spent on a screen, you need their help to do it. Or you do it yourself, but they can get around it because you don't really know what you're doing. By the way, if setting up parental controls is too much for you, who in the church can help? If you're a tech guy, who can you offer help to? You know, it's bearing one another's burdens, isn't it? Or maybe they want to download a game or an app, but you don't really know much about this game or app, so you have to research this. You know, does it involve live chat with other players? How filtered is that? You have to research every time. It's wearing. But yeah, kids know more than us, and challenge number 6, especially for Phil, is that kids watch us. Sometimes we don't set a great example. The Children's Commissioner was speaking in Parliament last year. She said a lot of the things I've said tonight, but also she made the point, parents cannot say to their children, stop using your phone so much if they themselves are constantly scrolling, if they're looking at it at the dinner table. She said we need parents and adults in this country to have this conversation about their own addictions. So there we go. Are you feeling daunted by the scale of the challenge? 3 challenges for kids. It's harmful content, harmful people, harmful effects, and 3 challenges that make it harder for us to do anything about it. It's the kids push back, kids know more, and kids watch us. So what can you do? Well, we've covered all sorts of negatives tonight, and I really don't want us to go away from here responding out of fear. Whether that's fear of the big bad internet, let's cramp down, let's crack down, let's go home and rip our child's devices out of their hands and repeatedly crush them with a hammer. Let's not do that. Let's also not respond out of fear of maybe, I don't want my child not to like me, or fear of them being annoyed at me, so I never impose any boundaries. That's not good too. So now as we pivot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill you with ideas and suggestions, and you'll come up with some of your own and share them. But maybe a response is take one or two of those suggestions and say, that's what we're going to look to change in our household. Because doing all of it might be a bit overwhelming, but picking a couple of things so we could start doing that could be a good approach. And I've got an acronym for them because I think it helps you to remember them. And the acronym is GRACE, G-R-A-C-E. And the first word in the acronym GRACE is grace. So there's no way you're allowed to forget it. What can you do? I just want to say, parenting, we need to parent with grace. As Christians, we believe salvation is by grace, not works. It's not an individual's works. You can never be good enough to earn your own salvation, but it's also not a parent's works. You can never be a good enough parent to guarantee your child's salvation. So parenting's not about doing it all right. And so, again, if you've got an 18-year-old and you feel like you completely missed the boat on a lot of this, you haven't ruined their life chances forever and ever. There'll be all sorts of things you say, I didn't do that, but be hopeful. We believe in a God of grace. Or maybe you let things slip during COVID and you never really got back on top of it. That's okay. That's not the end of the story. So grace for parents, also grace for young people. My kids roll their eyes every time they have another online safety assembly at school. It's become a bit of a running joke in our family. But here's a serious point about it. The message they hear from their school is a message of fear. It's don't send naked selfies, don't send nudes, don't do this, don't do that, because once you do, it's on the internet forever, it's permanent, you can never take that back, and the subtext, or sometimes it's said out loud, is, what were you thinking, you stupid child, you've ruined your life. It's a message without grace. So let's say to our children, look, be wise on the internet. Don't send nudes, don't bully people online, but for those who have, there is grace, and there is restoration. And God can work even through the darkest moments of your life to build something beautiful. So we start with grace, but then we also have rules. Rules are not the whole ball game. It's not the whole thing. Don't go from here and say, the one thing I'm going to do is just start imposing more rules. We need to be much more rounded than that. Because the ultimate goal of parenting, it's not just to protect. Say that again. The ultimate goal of parenting is not just to protect. It's not just about shielding our children from the big bad world of the internet and social media and then unleashing them at 18 without the tools to navigate the world. So the ultimate goal of parenting in many ways is formation. But to help try and form them, we do need to think about what rules to put in place and how to make them effective. It's like anything. It's like knives in the kitchen. You don't lock them all away and then say, it's your 18th birthday, you can now start using knives, but you also don't start them off with the sharpest knife in the drawer. Initially, they can only use if you're supervising, all that sort of thing. So I'm going to make some suggestions on rules. There is no one-size-fits-all. Every family is different. And especially if you've got teenagers, I would say don't just impose this from on high. Maybe, I've heard it suggested, have a night in, get some popcorn, snacks, come up with some rules together that you can all agree on. Even the stroppiest teenager will listen if they think, it will participate if they think they might be listened to. So here are some of the things you want to think through. It's what age should they get a phone? For most kids today, the answer is secondary school. That's basically what we did. And there are good reasons for that. You can have location tracking. You can get bus tickets on the phone. They can text their friends. They can message if they're staying late after school. 97% of children have a smartphone when they start secondary school. But there is growing pushback. Many parents are delaying until they're 14. It's not no phone. It's maybe give them a phone that does texts and calls, but it's a phone that avoids social media and internet connection and excessive notifications for all the reasons we've already discussed. And if I go back, I think I would delay when we gave our kids a phone. I probably would go for 14. Another question to put rules around is what apps can they use? Just like in the cinema, just like films in the cinema, apps have age ratings. Anything from 3 to 18 to an exclamation point, which basically means that it's available for all ages, but parents should keep an eye. But unlike films in the cinema, it's a bit more confusing. Partly because the age recommendation can differ on Apple and Android. But also, it's not as easy to classify apps. For a film, it's like, well, it's got this many swear words and this much nudity, so let's make it an 18 or a 15 or whatever. But for apps, it's a lot more nebulous what's good or bad. An app like WhatsApp can be harmless or very dangerous depending on who has your child's phone number. But it's still a helpful starting point. In addition, I'd recommend restricting social media to 16. Our daughter was always asking us, when can I sign up to Instagram? When can I sign up to Instagram? All my friends are on it. I'm the only one. The app itself requires you to be 13, but it was only when she turned 16 that we said, yes, okay, now you can have Instagram. And she's fine. Didn't break her, didn't ruin her childhood. Linked to that then there's which websites. We've done different things at different times. There's always built-in parental controls you can use, but at first they could only access websites we'd specifically given permission for. And then as they grew, it was kind of all websites that the software said was okay for their age range. I'll put up slides on the software later. Another rule to think through with your children is which people can they contact? When we first gave kids their phones, the rule was you can only give your phone number to family members. And after a while, it was to family friends. And then once they'd shown a level of trustworthiness, okay, you can give your phone number to anyone. But let's talk about wisdom. You don't have to give it. Who do you want to have your phone number? It's teaching them to engage with the world. There should be rules about, where can they use their phone, which rooms of the house. We've had two main places in our house where we've had rules. Number one was the kids' bedroom. To have the phone in there when they were younger, it gave the opportunity for more secrecy. If something was wrong on there, hiding problems away, although we've relaxed that as they've got older. And the other rule we had was around the dinner table. That wasn't a secrecy thing. That was just a family connection kind of thing. We have rules about when they can use the phone, what time, late at night. Are there limits to how long each day they can use it? And again, to give you an example, not because we've got it all right, but because I think examples can be helpful. Solomon, his phone locks down at 8:45 every night. And then we have time limits on some apps. He gets 15 minutes a day on YouTube. And when I was at another church about a year ago speaking on this, and there were actually a bunch of teenagers who were sitting there, and I said he gets 15 minutes on YouTube, and one of them couldn't restrain herself. And it's like the loudest audible gasp you have ever heard. It was hilarious. But the point is with him, he's just got such an addictive personality that he's just going to keep watching and watching and watching. And we really want to try and help him not dive into that. Other apps, we let him have more time. And the other thing to think about is what other devices can they access the internet on? And that's key. We focused on the phone, but it's not just about the phone. Do they have access to a laptop, a console, or anything else that allows them onto the internet? There's so much to think through, isn't there? It can't be done in 5 minutes. It takes research, it takes time. But at some level, isn't that time well spent. There we go. There's the rules. We'll come back to that maybe in Q&A or discussions later. I just want to run through the rest of this GRACE acronym before we stop for a break. Next up, ask God. That's another way of saying pray. Pray for your children. Not just in the real world, pray for them in the virtual world. Pray that they would be wise. Pray that they'd develop these healthy rhythms and healthy boundaries and so on. Pray that God would produce the fruit of their Spirit in their life when it comes to being online. Love and joy and peace and self-control. C is for conversations. We've always tried to make this an ongoing conversation with our kids. We want to talk with them so they can learn to think for themselves about why we've got this rule or that rule. So they can learn to use tech wisely, not just fear the negative impacts of tech or resent us for the restrictions we place on it. And so I'll sometimes ask them questions. Yeah, do you ever find that you want to use your phone a little bit less? Or if I've read an interesting article on a topic, I'll send it to them and see what they think. And sometimes I talk about screen time with them like a diet. I'm saying, look, it's not all bad. Not all food is bad, just like not all screen time is bad. But just like you wouldn't live on sweets and crisps, let's not live on a constant diet of YouTube shorts. So I just want to help them see it's not some metric of how many hours, but learning how to do this well. And with Phoebe, we watched a Netflix documentary. This was the condition that allowed her to get Instagram. Once you're 16, you can have Instagram if you watch this Netflix documentary with us called The Social Dilemma. Basically features a lot of people who've worked in the tech industry, former director of Facebook, a former vice president of Twitter and more, and they're explaining their concerns about smartphones and going into some of the science around it. So we watched that with Phoebe because we want to keep that conversation going. And again, if you have an older teen, conversations are the best weapons in your armory. You can't walk up to a 17-year-old with a list of rules you've never enforced before, but you can start having conversations. And you know what it's like with teenagers. Face-to-face conversations don't always work brilliantly, but maybe a chat in the car, chat late at night, just when it's bedtime, they're really good times. And try to be positive in that. And last E, it's our own example. We've talked about this, but do a self-inventory. And honestly, this is an area I struggle with, and there are solutions out there. And I'll put specific software on the screen at the end, but I use an app that limits me to 20 minutes of social media a day. I've got another app that sets blocks on my phone so I can't view social media or news after 9 p.m. or before 8 a.m. And notifications. Every app wants to send you notifications. I am ruthless in turning them off because I want it to be on my schedule, not the app's schedule. And if you're married, talk with your spouse. Well, are we happy with how much we're using our screens? Are we setting the kind of example we want to? And how can we help each other do better with that? And maybe do we need to say to our kids, yeah, sorry, we've got this wrong for you. So that's grace. That's what we can do as parents. And so what we'll do now, I'm conscious there's so much more wisdom in this room than just what I've got to say. So we're going to stop for a break to get some food in us. And during the break, there is a discussion. No food, drink? Get something in us. During the break, you can maybe discuss these questions with whoever you are milling around. And the questions are, how have you approached these questions with your children? And what other advice would you give someone on parenting in a digital age? So then once we've had our little break, we can then feed back and share wisdom, because I think in many ways that will be the most valuable part of tonight. And then Q&A, and we'll wrap it up. Matt, happy? Joe? Great.
Little scones and things up here if you want to run and grab a scone.
Okay, so I've just remembered, Matt said you can write your questions down on this piece of paper, and he gave you pens in his nice yellow pencil case. And then we forgot to mention it at the start of the break, so no one's done it. But that's fine. So in about 5 minutes or so, we'll probably get on to questions, and you can just ask them. They don't have to be written, so that's allowed too. But for the meantime, let's just get a bit of feedback on that question. Maybe you discussed it in the break. Maybe you didn't, but you've got something you can share with us now. And let's just share some of our wisdom with one another. So please do stick your hand up and let's get started. Yeah, let's go for the microphone, but yes.
Thank you very much. It's just... Ooh, is that better?
That's fab.
So when I worked in a school, we had a safeguarding delivery of information from someone professional. I just wondered what advice parents get from school. That's what I wondered.
So what advice are parents getting from school on this kind of thing?
Are parents getting like some kind of digest of because this safeguarding would obviously cover online safety, and it was good information, and it would contain links to websites that were helpful, etc. And I wondered if that stuff was coming through to parents.
Yeah, I can't speak for all schools in all places. Certainly my son's school would send the odd thing through, but I think the reality is as well, schools send a lot of emails about a lot of things, and not all, actually, this might be being harsh. I think most parents would probably skip past a lot of this stuff when it comes in emails from schools. Were you going to add something?
Children in primary school, and sometimes they'll tag it onto the newsletter, but if you can be bothered to scroll that far. And then they also sometimes do drop-in sessions if you're not working and can be bothered to go.
Yeah.
So it depends a lot on what parents want from it, and it's there.
Yeah.
If you want it, is probably
But how many are accessing it?
Haven't yet.
Yeah.
Because I've been working.
Yeah, and you're here, so you're fine. Yeah. Anyone else, just kind of really broadly on these questions, maybe something you've learned along the way, or you learned not to do, or just a story from, this is what we did.
I think I would, if I was giving advice, if I was having my time over again, I always used to think of technology and conversations around technology as just quite irritating and frustrating. And I would try to get them over as soon as possible, probably. Whereas I think I would try and think of it now more as something that's just really good to invest in, and it is going to take a lot of time, and I just need to factor that into my day and week, that James or whatever, children are going to want to talk about technology. They are going to want to talk about apps and limits, and things are always going to be changing, and I just need to invest that time and make sure I've got that time, rather than it's, oh no, here's another pushback, here's another challenge. How can I get this conversation to go away as quickly as possible, which is probably how I was thinking about it, not very helpfully.
No, thank you, Richard. That is helpful. And it just prompts a thought. We'll come to you in a second. It just prompts a thought on me. I try and engage conversations on really positive stuff. So if I find it probably slightly harder to connect with Solomon than I did with Phoebe, just personality-wise. But I know that if I want to really connect with him, I can suggest, do you want to play Mario Kart together? Or I can say, oh, tell me about your new game. And he will tell me. And it will be 25 minutes of detail. But he's connecting with me. He's trying to communicate with me in that moment. And actually, that is positive, because that means not every conversation about technology is negative. There's a conversation I had that was, oh yeah, so we had some positive ones as well. And that kind of balances it out. Yes.
So I work in safeguarding, and I work with a lot of teenagers, actually even younger. I think my youngest that I've had issues around this with have been 7, 8 years old. But one of the things I was going to say is exactly what you've just said, is about saying to them, show me this. talk to me about it. I don't know what with Call of Duty. Never seen it in my whole life. Run me through it.
And they love explaining it.
And they love it. And you see an insight into them. I mean, it was horrible, and I would absolutely wholeheartedly say to people, don't even do it as adults. It's just not necessary. It's too much gratuitous violence. But my point about that is just about engaging them in those conversations. And I know, so because this is a newish job for me, so for our teenagers, it's been really helpful in our house. I've been saying to them, tell me about this because I don't understand it. How does this work? What are you seeing of this at the time in school? What do your friends say about this? So it's kind of almost not about them, but it's about what's going on in their peer group. So I'm asking them to educate me so that I can do my job better, but it's also giving me an insight into the world that they're accessing. And that can cover things like drugs and crime and all those things as well, but also these kind of things to do with the digital world. And I'm not saying we've got it perfectly right, and we've talked about how we do it differently if we had our time again, but just, those things have just been really clear to me in the work I do about just engaging them in conversation about it. And it takes that judgment away and that fear that, oh, here's another adult that's going to tell me what to do. Later on, you can have those conversations and say, well, we need to drill down your 17 hours a day online now because that's absurd and it's ruining your life. But you've got to get in there and build that relationship first. So that's my top tip.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. And I love what you said about asking about their friends as well. So, a really blunt example, you say to your teenage son, have you seen pornography online? No. Have some of your friends ever seen it? They might be more open to talk, even if and they know maybe you're talking about the same. But it's a less confrontational way of doing it, isn't it? And, anyone else? Yes, Catherine.
I was just thinking about more broadly parenting in general, but then applying it to this in two particular ways. One is that, sort of drawing on Claire's thing, really, relationships are more important than rules.
Yep.
And also something that we've always done is treating you equally does not mean treating you the same, because they're unique image bearers, and therefore something that, again, the blanket rule doesn't work because you're all different, and what is okay for one isn't okay for another.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting for a second we've done it perfectly at all, but I think it helps them to grow in discernment themselves about the reason we're doing this for you is because we know this about you, and therefore you might need to be careful in this area in a way your siblings don't. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe that's helpful.
That's brilliant. That's really, really insightful, really wise. Thank you. Do you have a couple more? Maybe any stories from what you've done in your household? Yeah, go on.
I think one thing at the moment is you mentioned about the harmful content. It's probably trying to find. This isn't something that we've done. I'd say something trying to find is good content. Spending time with the kids, watching good stuff, and there's some things out there. But yeah, I suppose that would be something you'd be interested to hear at different ages what people have found. But
So I think you're asking the room really there. What have any of you actually found some really helpful content you think you want to direct your kids to, or maybe watch with them? It's out there, isn't it? It's just yeah.
I mean, I don't think I've done that in the content, but sometimes in the films we've watched as a family, so sometimes you're sitting there as a family and obviously something comes on and you think, whoa, that's not appropriate, so we turn it off. But other times you think, okay, let's watch this, and then you have a conversation with them and you say, well, did you see the subtle way they were trying to teach you about that, or say that's okay, or the message that's going on? So it's trying to help them see beyond the storyline and see what is being peddled here. What are they preaching? What is being said? What's the morals here? Do we agree with that? So it's trying to get them to think about that. So it is equipping them so that when they're not with you, they can actually make those good decisions. Is this right? Is this what the Bible says? So it's just equipping them.
Brilliant. Yeah, in the middle. Oh, yeah. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry. everybody. Just something else that I've forgotten, that we have this joke in our family that our children, and for years, they've come and announced some new fact or thing that is true, and then we've always said, well, where did you hear that? Oh, on TikTok, Instagram, whatever channel of drivel you choose. And we've sort of laughingly, sort of half-jokingly said, well, it must be true then. And so always just encouraging them to question it and not get sucked into the echo chamber, because I think that is a massive danger particularly with social media. That whole, the algorithm, you're feeding it that one thing that you click that like on, and just getting them to question it. Is what you've heard true? What does the Bible say about that?
Yeah, brilliant.
In terms of a helpful content that there is, I think there's an Australian website, isn't it? I've used it at work. It's called raisingchildren.org. It's an Australian website, and it's got like a list of all sorts of films or media you might watch with your kids. And it gives you a little synopsis of what they think should be the age and why. So, for example, if you think, oh, I'd like to watch, I only have little kids, so this is why it's little kid appropriate. I want to watch like Moana with my kids. You can go and it will say, this isn't appropriate for a child under the age of 8 because this scene with Tafiti and is scary, and this scene and this. And I found that quite helpful because I might have thought about all the nice parts of Disney and forgotten the bits that might be scary for a kid. I mean, that's not online, but it is quite helpful.
But that's really helpful, and that becomes more and more as they get to the teenage, and you think, oh, this great film, we should watch it together as a family, and then you watch it, and you're like, oh, I don't remember that bit. But you can just type in any film and just Google parental guide, and it will give you like a list of, these are the swear words used in this film, this is the nudity in this film, this is the violence in this film, this is the use of cigarettes in this film. Common Sense Media, someone say?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah. That's it, Common Sense Media.
And Plugged In as well we've used.
What was that?
It's Plugged In, it's
Plugged
called.
In, yeah,
Plugged In.
yeah, that's another one. And so they are absolutely brilliant for just reminding you what's in something. I'm going to recommend a few resources, and then we can just finish with slightly wider Q&A. This slide, I sent all these slides to Matt and Richard a month ago, and feel free to get them from them. But I'm just going to mention a few things. So you can check out, obviously, CARE's website for a bit more information on some of the political stuff. Naked Truth Project, it's a great website. It's an organization we've partnered with a little bit at CARE, porn awareness for young people. They go into schools and do things. Smartphone-free childhood. They are the ones who are trying to get a movement maybe to delay getting smartphones until a little bit later. Care for the Family do a lot of work around this. They publish resources as well. They're linked to CARE in that we founded them 30 years ago, but now they're their own separate organization, and everyone gets us confused. NSPCC for parental control advice, and then 2 books, Left to Their Own Devices by Catherine Hill. It's a great book. And The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. That's a bit more statisticky, social science, and a storyteller as well, all in one. I sometimes feel with Jonathan Haidt that maybe he edges a bit towards the fearful, language. So just be aware of that. But there's a lot of great evidence-based stuff in there, and I found it a helpful book. And then the Netflix documentary I mentioned we watched with Phoebe when she was 16 before allowing her to have Instagram, Social Dilemma. It's a mixture of interviews with experts and some really badly acted storyline. And it kind of cuts between the two, and it's you kind of have to prepare your kids to go, this is going to be a little bit cringe at times. But yeah, that's that. And then the other thing to mention is just on software. I said I'd mention a few things. So for your child, if you have they have an Apple device, screen time is your best thing. And because Apple are very restrictive on allowing other apps to influence other apps, they're very limited in what apps can do. Screen time's really the only thing on Apple. Whereas with Android, there's more options. Family Link is the built-in Google software that allows you to control what time they use it, what apps they use, how long they use it for, and so on. But there's another app there called Custodio, which we actually recently got, which costs about £60 a year, so £5 a month. And that has a bit more, that's more features. So that allows us, that gives us lists of which websites Solomon's visited. That gives us a list of what his search terms are and what he's watching on YouTube. And it gives us a bit more detail than Family Link. And it also sends us a message if he has any concerning conversations in WhatsApp. We don't see all his WhatsApps. We just get a message that there's a concerning message. And that's kind of fun, because he and his friends will be talking about some gaming thing and about, I'm going to throw a grenade, and then I get an email saying, your son is talking about throwing grenades on WhatsApp. But yes, I can see the logic behind that feature. It doesn't work for us. And then, also for yourself, because again, I use screen time you can use to monitor your own device usage on Apple. Digital Wellbeing, a free app on Android, comes with Android. I use that a lot to limit the length of time I spend on certain apps. And then Freedom works on both Apple and Android, and that I find really useful for setting really hard blocks. I mean, I cannot open social media on my phone after 9 p.m. because Freedom stops it from happening. I can't disable it or anything, which is great. And I think that's about £40 a year, so £3 or £4 a month. Put those there just because I want to, for completeness, and you can go and explore. And if you get confused by it, chat to people in your church who might know more. But now, just as we finish, I'm conscious we've had lots of discussion time and lots of sharing, but you might still have some questions on anything we've covered tonight. So please do, stick your hands up in the air. We have a question from Catherine.
Just ask, so with the age verification recently coming in, and
Yes.
very encouragingly, the statistics for those accessing pornography sites decreased.
Massively.
Which was really encouraging. However, at the same time, stats for those accessing VPN apps went through the roof,
Yep.
which essentially means young people, as they're brilliant in doing, are able to get to those sites via a backdoor. And I was just wondering what is going on in the work of CARE to perhaps block this area.
Yeah, and so just to kind of decode that question for anyone who's not familiar, internet traffic to pornography sites in the UK went from roughly, I think it's like 3 million visits a day to roughly 1.5 million. It basically halved. Stats are in that order. That's not precisely correct. But there's something called a VPN, which is how people bypass these restrictions, and traffic to VPN has risen dramatically, not by as much as the decrease. And the rise in VPNs is not just crafty teenagers finding their way around, but also plenty, and I think actually the majority of the rise of VPNs is actually adults who want to visit their sites without giving any ID because they don't want to have to verify their age. But then back to the question, what next for CARE? I think realistically at this stage, we don't think there is the political appetite to get VPNs more harshly legislated. And we're taking the win we've got, even though it's not complete. We actually feel it is massive and is making a big difference. And we're moving to say, okay, what's next? And that's why we're focusing on the strangulation and things like that. So no, it's not perfect, but I think for now, we don't see a clear path of how can we get that more tightly regulated. Yeah. More questions? Yes.
My husband might know the answer to this anyway, but you can set these things up to allow a certain amount of time on an app.
Yep.
But what if they just then use the web browser to go to the same thing, like, you know?
Yeah, great question. So you can block the web browser of those apps. So for example, we give Solomon his 15 minutes a day on YouTube, on the YouTube app, but the youtube.com is blocked. So he cannot go to YouTube through Chrome or Safari or web browser. He can only get there through the app, and that can therefore limit his stop him finding a workaround. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there much talk about in the future digital ID kind of relating to access to things, or am I talking to pipeline here?
You're talking
to pipeline. Am I talking down the road, something that's not even happened yet, or
yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
is it going to happen?
Digital ID, it takes us back 20 years to the initial introduction of ID cards, and people were very against it then. And I think if you look, I think there is not much of an appetite for it now. I think at CARE, that's not an avenue we think is the right solution to these problems. And it's not something we'd want to campaign for, because when you start going down digital ID, you do end up, I think, creating other problems. And so that's not an area we're campaigning on. We're focusing on, so they're quite niche areas there. It's interesting, I think the conversation has been resurrected in recent months, and we may see it become part of the political discussion in the UK in the next 5 years. It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. And that leads into some of the other dangers around the Online Safety Act. So we've talked a little bit about the good bits of the Online Safety Act and age verification. There are plenty of people who are very upset with the Online Safety Act because of the ways it could, there's some certain clauses within it that could end up restricting free speech, and I think that's something that does need to be looked at. But it's also remembering, societies have never had to try and legislate online before, legislate for online speech, and actually we're working it out as we go, and hopefully there'll be some improvements to that. But the age verification thing we're pleased with. Yeah.
I was just wondering if CARE's doing anything around AI, because I think my children are still quite little, and when they're teenagers, I think that's going to be the main thing we have to parent through. That's different to now.
Yeah, so we are doing work around AI, unlike with something like online safety, where this is one of our main policy asks, and we're lobbying government, we're putting all our energy into making change happen. With AI, we take a more reactive role. So we're looking at what's coming through Parliament, what laws are making their way through, and then exploring, is this something we need to be concerned about? Does the way this is being framed, does that line up with a biblical worldview, or have they completely got the wrong end of the stick about what it means to be human? And so it's a more responsive role. If you're interested in thinking more about AI from a Christian perspective, I have done a couple of talks in churches on it in recent months, which should be available on CARE's website. And very excitingly for me, this is a self-promotion thing. I just signed a book contract last week with a good book company to write a book on Christians and AI. So wait a year and you can read that. But yeah. No, genuinely, they want publishing in autumn next year. They want the manuscript before the end of this year. Oh, I know. What else was I going to say on AI? It is going to be an ever-growing concern. Yeah, and I didn't talk tonight about one area of AI that is quite concerning, and that is around what's called AI nudification apps. There's a word that wouldn't have existed 20 years ago, but the idea is that if you were to take a photo of somebody and upload that photo into an AI nudification app, the AI will then generate an image of what it thinks that person would look like unclothed. Yeah, that was the right reaction, whoever said that. And we are frustrated because we have been, the two things we were really working on this summer were the strangulation, violence in porn, and the AI nudification apps. And one, we've had an absolute success, and the AI nudification, we have not been able to get traction with the government on. And that is really, and it just is not going anywhere. Why? I think they would say that existing laws are sufficient because theoretically it is covered under existing laws if you were to create an image of someone without their consent. But the law is really unclear and vague, and we're saying it should be just illegal to use these tools, full stop. And they're saying, no, it should be maybe if there's consent, but we're saying these tools are just bad. Let's just ban them. And at the moment, we have not been able to get the political traction on that, and sometimes that's part of the frustration of politics, and you might have an MP who agrees with you, but like, have they got the bandwidth to take it on? And so that's an area you can pray about, is that we'd be able to get some progress on these AI nudification apps, because that is just an evil thing to do, obviously.
The room. We do have restrictions on our girls' phones, tighter than their friends. Yep. Like they can't go on YouTube at all. But I find them sitting at the platform watching YouTube on their friend's phone. So, you know, I mean, obviously we've had talks with them about it. How do other people deal with that? You can't. You can restrict your kids' stuff as much as you like, but if they go around their friend's house.
Yeah. I've got an answer, but I would. It's not a comprehensive solution, but I'll tell you how we do it. But anyone else maybe want to kind of weigh in, so it's not just me. It's me. Okay, I'll just say, I think we take a fairly kind of realistic approach on that, and we accept that that's going to happen. We tell our kids that we try and have that conversation open, so that if you see anything that makes you uncomfortable, tell us. And we would draw a distinction maybe between, okay, they watched some YouTube on their friend's phone, so yeah, we'd rather they didn't, but. And they went round to their friend's house and he showed them some pornography on his phone. That would be you're not going to that friend's house again. You're not in trouble that he showed you that, but let's talk about why we're not going to go around that house again. So I think it would, when it comes to the stuff that we'd rather you didn't, but you've got to recognize that for us, we say that that's how it works. Yeah. But we're muddling through like everybody else. Shall we wrap this up, Matt? Yeah, I'm happy to stick around for any more questions. I'm not rushing off, but I'm conscious many of you will perhaps want to head home. Can I just say, I mentioned sign-ups at the beginning. If you're able to, that really helps us as we're working in Parliament to get some of these things done. And really bluntly and simply, there's a little bit of a competition in the office at the moment as to who can get the most sign-ups. And I would love just to walk into the office later this week with a big pile of, and just go, look at those. And so, I know you signed up already from previous visits, and that's wonderful. But please do consider signing up or follow us on social media or use the QR code or anything else. But thank you so much for your time, and shall I pray? Father God, we feel overwhelmed in many ways by the sheer amount of things we need to think about and the complexity of life in this world. And we only think how hard it is for our children as well. And we pray that you would give us great wisdom, give us boldness, give us courage, give us grace, give us good conversations with our children. Help us to know how best to manage these rules and this time. And all of us are in different situations with different children of different ages, with different personalities. And we pray for that dollop of wisdom for each one of us. And we pray that you'd help us to support one another, bear one another's burdens. May the conversations that were started here tonight continue in an ongoing manner, so that together we can seek to raise our children and point them to you. And ultimately, may they come to know you and love you with all their heart, mind, soul, and strength. And we ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all.